This morning we're featuring longtime Mensa Bulletin language columnist Richard Lederer. He's the author of more than 50 books about language, history, and humor, including his best-selling English series and his current titles, A Treasury of Halloween Humor and A Treasury of Christmas Humor. He is a founding co-host in a Wayward Words broadcast on KPBS. Dr. Lederer's syndicated column, Lederer on Language, appears in newspapers and magazines throughout the United States, including the San Diego Union-Tribune. He has been named International Punster of the Year and Toastmasters International Golden Gavel winner. And thank you and welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much. Long ago, I came out with a book, Fractured English, part of the Anguished English series. And they did I think, a pretty clever, distorted picture, photo of me when my hair wasn't white. So at that time, I was back east, so the book tour started in New York. And I'm standing there, and I had seen this book, maybe actually got a corporeal copy about 3 days before. So I'm standing there on the corner, and son of a gun, a woman starts walking by with the book. Wow, only just 3 days out. And I said to and I sort of hoped she noticed me. So I went, and she didn't. She just kept on walking. And I finally said to her, "Excuse me, ma'am." She said, "Yes." I said, "You see that book that you have in your hand?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I wrote that book." She looked at the book, looked at me and said, "So what?" And kept on walking. Well, the so what, of course, is to be with my fellow Mensans. I think many of you know that Simone and I met at the first RG in New Hampshire in 1990. I was a speaker, and we eventually got married in 91. And it was thanks to Mensa. And now, of course, she is president of our local group and working very hard. And many of you may not know that Simone recently became chair of the National History Committee. She loves history and mystery and is busy collecting with her fellow committee members all sorts of things about American Mensa. So, speaking about that, I invite you to the World Gathering at the end of August, 75th, to me and Simone, who will be with me, of course, very special. And it was founded by Roland Barilla and Lancelot Ware. And as part of my Limericks contest, and I'll explain that later, but a friend of mine, Megan Edwards from Southern Nevada, wrote the following limerick about Lancelot Ware. A club for the smarties, said Lancelot, will help the whole earth to advance a lot, will attract the pretentious, the proud and contentious, and nerds who need help with romance a lot. And first of all, perfect meter. As you may know, the limerick is the most popular fixed form with an English base. I mean, the sonnet, of course, is ginormous, but that really is Italian and essentially continental in origin. But the limerick, anapestic, trimeter, trimeter, dimeter, dimeter, trimeter, da 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 da. C3, da 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 da. Then it slows down the dimeter, da 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 da. Punchline. And I'll be having a contest, I think, in the August issue of the Mensa Bulletin. I will share with you that Chip Talby is the best magazine editor I have ever had, and believe me, I've had a lot of them. And I hope some of you will join, as you did. And you may have seen that 6-page spread and cover in the March issue on the collective nouns, a constellation of starfish, that kind of thing. and it was great fun. But think about a limerick or two or three, I think three is the limit, about Christmas. You have all these characters, Santa Claus, Mrs. Claus, Rudolph, the other reindeer, the elves, Frosty the Snowman, and on to put into a limerick, which by definition will be humorous. I will humbly present my effort, not that I'm in the contest, but here's my Christmas limerick. I hope it won't come as a shock that Christmas I hazard to mock. It's the one time that we sit around a dead tree eating candy right out of a sock. Now, folks out there, if I have been Zooming and reaching more people, and especially more Mensans, than ever before in my life. But it isn't quite the same as being in the same room and so on. So what I want to say to you is, if you're able to show yourself and I can see you, that is, of course, up to you entirely. But second, if you would unmute yourself, that would be a help so that I can hear if you're laughing. So at least I get some feedback. And I'm not just isolated here in my study where, by the way, my writing takes place. So you can see a dictionary there. There's a rhyming dictionary, a thesaurus, and all of those things that I have to grab very quickly when I'm writing. The way it's going to work today is I'm going to do swatches of previews of things coming up exclusively for you. And then I will pause and I will take any questions you have. I'll try to answer them on anything about language, word origins, phrase origins, anything about the history of the English language, anything about the grammar, usage, punctuation of English. I think most of you know my range, anything about anagrams and palindromes, vocabulary building, whatever, anything about the writing life. Anything about getting published. What's this self-publishing? How does it differ from brick and mortar? I can give you some very useful answers. And by the way, I will remain available after, long after, if you need to email me with a question, you'll get an answer within 48 hours, often 24. So there we go. So I'm going to begin with my current project. And this is a book titled, not entitled, Richard Lederer's Ultimate Book of Literary Trivia. It is a great example of Mensa cooperation. 1 + 1 = infinity. And to be specific, this is going to be a book on world literature. It will have 6 clusters, authors, so their lives, works, the books themselves, titles, the titles of the books, and then in the more classic vein, Bible, mythology, that's with a comma, not Bible mythology, Bible, comma, mythology, comma, Shakespeare. My editor and proofreader is my very good friend, Caroline McCullough, who I hope you know is the columnist of Page Turners, often comes right after mine, and is generally about 4 pages on Mensa books. And I will tell you, with the just prolificness of Mensans, and I've been to her home. I have lunch with her once a week. It's just piled up, like the last scene in Citizen Kane, but in this case with books by Mensans. So she has been a proofer and editor, and for many of my other books, and very helpful with my seeking art for. There's going to be an image for each of the 6 sections. Again, authors, works, titles, Bible, mythology, Shakespeare. My friends, I'm sorry, Charlie Patton and Eileen Breedlove are helping me to search out online images that I can use, and just putting in a lot of time just out of love of the project. So that's Menson's helping Menson. So let me just give you a little look. There are a number of quizzes and also a lot of writing about the lives of the authors and their books and so on. And I think many of you know I have a kind of cellular memory, so I get an idea and I just start calling up the examples and they cohere. Just very lucky I can do that. So I decided that let's play a game in which one matches the imaginary character, and then for the next one, the real character with a title of a book that exists and is pretty well known. So I'm just going to give you some of the examples, because obviously you can't take the quiz here because I can't show you the two columns. But with the imaginary characters, so for example, King Midas, imaginary character, Goldfinger. So Goldfinger was a book by Ian Fleming and a movie, and you can see with King Midas. Barney the dinosaur, for those of you who remember, the color purple. You get the idea. Venus de Milo, A Farewell to Arms. Good, I'm glad to hear that. Ebenezer Scrooge, Marley and Me. Oh, I love the laughter. And so on. But you get the idea, just a lot of fun and a lot more. Some literary, Hester Prynne from The Scarlet Letter, The Red Badge of Courage, because think she had to wear that scarlet. Which Dimmesdale Arthur did not. So I'm glad to hear that laughter, because I don't know how well this book will do, because we just have fewer and fewer readers of classic lit. And let me emphasize that in Richard Lederer's Ultimate Book of Literary Trivia, it's a lot of 21st and late 20th century people, meaning a lot of writers who happen to have XX chromosomes, not XY, and the XYs are in there, and who are dusky complected are in this. They're very well represented. But on the whole, one would have to be a literature lover. So now with the real people, okay, and I had special fun with this, so here we go. Amelia Earhart, Gone Girl.
Yeah.
Yogi Berra, Catcher in the Rye. And you've got to be a real baseball fan. And hey, Padres in first place. You know that Phil Mickelson ahead in the PGA going into the last round, 50 years old. OMG. But at any rate, this one, but I'll give it a try, see if you get this, because it's Mensa where we get your jokes. You know, that's what we really love. People get you in Mensa. That's why we join. But Willie Mays, Lord of the Flies. Okay, I'm getting some laughter there. You may recall probably the most famous catch in baseball, a crucial World Series game against the White Sox. Vic
Against Cleveland,
White
Rich.
Sox.
Rich,
Yes.
that was against Cleveland.
Oh, yes. Okay, Cleveland, thanks. Hauls off, just hits the ball a ton, center field. Willie runs back, makes a blind catch over his shoulder and throws, I think it was without a bounce, according to, I actually watched that on TV, black and white, when it happened. I wasn't in the ballpark, and turns around, whoop, right at home, and keeps the a run from scoring. Just amazing. And Lord of the Flies. You may not know the story that Bob Costas tells, that they were putting a lot of pitchers in. It was such a crucial game. So as the pitcher walked off, who had served up that that wallop of a hit, the other pitcher comes in, and the first pitcher says, "Got mine. Now it's your turn." And of course, thanks to Willie. Jane Goodall, Planet of the Apes. Thomas Crapper, Game of Thrones. Jeff Bezos, Deliverance. And Benedict Arnold, Enemy of the People. And you just get the idea, you know, so much fun. And I'll end on a little bit of a dark note, but I put it in Adolf Hitler, Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
So I'm moving along with it. And again, with the help of my friends, particularly my friends in Mensa. And I think, was that Bob Tuttleman who corrected me a little bit?
Yes, it was me.
Yeah, I just want to do a shout out for Bob, who has been overseeing and created the Mensa Lunch Group, the Thursday group, for decades. I don't know if it's 30 years, Bob, or close to it.
It's actually more than 30 years,
Yeah.
because I started it when I went to work in Kearny Mesa, which was 1987.
Lovely. And has kept it going via Zoom. And we actually get usually as many as, if not more than, we would get in person, because we have some far-flung people, and it's just been great. He's been doing it by Zoom. So actually, in terms of numbers like that, I'm going to give you a number, and then I'm going to take your questions if you have them. I've been at this for a long time. I, as you can guess, was an English major at Haverford College. Our motto is, "We haven't heard of you either." And
It's in Pennsylvania. It's right outside.
it's a little Quaker school outside of Philadelphia. I entered as a pre-med, aiming to be a chemistry major. I like science, but I just had the feeling it wasn't quite what I was about. And so then I took a Renaissance Lit course that had Shakespeare in it, but didn't feature him. So Philip Sidney, Edmund Spenser, John Skelton, a lot of folks maybe you haven't heard of. And I realized that was why I was put on this planet and switched over just in time, in part because I was reading the chemistry formulae for their literary value. And I am telling you folks, the secret of, being 83 and still out playing tennis and still writing is to blow up the distance between who you are and what you do. And I have done that. I've done it for a long time, but just in times of not becoming a chemistry major. And I was at Harvard Law School, and the same thing. I enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite who I was. And I would have been class of 62. I finished 1 year, did well in the exams, but switched over to the ed school and became an English teacher. So let's take a little, I wouldn't call it break here, but we're not going to pass each other's way in this configuration again. Thank you all for coming and supporting the RG. And what I'm wondering is anything, as I say on the radio show that Patrick mentioned, Away with Words, any question, puns to punctuation, pronouns to pronunciation, diction to dictionaries, palindromes to palaver, anything about your writing, any pet peeve you have, grammar usage, spelling, punctuation. Can I be of help? And trust me, I have enough to last for hours here, and I'll just move on to the next thing after your questions, but I want to give you a chance.
I have
one.
Patrick.
Alan Sherman, who did that song, Hello Mudda, Hello Fada. He really
Here we are in Camp, what is it, Granada?
Yeah,
Camp Granada.
Camp Granada. Very entertaining, and they say that we will have fun. We'll have fun if it stops raining. And a fairly early death for him, unfortunately. What's your question?
Yeah, well, I was curious what you thought of him, because he played with words. I know he drank a lot because his career went down, and he died young. You're right.
Yeah, I thought a lot of him, and to some extent, his modern incarnation is Weird Al, or Yankovic. I think I love that stuff. Oh, I love all of that, and Tom Lehrer.
Yeah, I always felt that Tom Lehrer was a little more clever in what he did. That
was great.
Alan Sherman went for the cheap rhyme, and
Gotcha.
but
I was going to mention one of your books, Richard. Sleeping Dogs Don't Lay.
Yeah.
which is a good, and people aren't hung, right? That's
No, people are hanged. Pictures
that's
are
right.
hung.
They aren't hung.
Right.
People aren't hung. They
Although
are
some
hanged.
would claim to be, and I'm not going to get off color here.
Oh, well,
You know.
those that claim to be hung, that's another story.
Right.
Ugh.
Well, by the way, that's like the plastic surgeon who hung himself. Think about it. Plastic. Yeah, all of those. And thank you. You have Sleeping Dogs Don't Lay. That's probably my main grammar book. And I think I've given a talk with our Mensa group here, asked Dr. Grammar Guy, and I'm going to be doing that at the World Gathering. And speaking of the music and the lyrics, I think most of you know that for many years now, I've worked with the incomparable Bill Stanek, aka Bill Shipper, and we're going to be presenting our Dances with Words concert at the WG, the World Gathering, and we will include some songs celebrating the 75th anniversary of our beloved organization. So Patrick, you're next, I think.
Oh, I had a question, y'all.
And then Rick Hubbard, I think, had a question.
Palindromes are basically the same thing frontwards or backwards. Is there a special name for palindromes that are numerical?
Well, I would say numerodromes, but I hear you. And of course, we do have those. Like the calendar we had recently, let me just think for a minute, 1991 was I'm sorry, Rick, what am I saying? I made up that, palindromes.
Okay.
For that. And that's what's called a portmanteau, where you're squishing together. Lewis Carroll did that with Galumph and Jordal in Jabberwocky. And by the way, we'll be celebrating that at the RG next year. That will be essentially the 150th year since the publication of Through the Looking Glass and what Alice saw there. So I, at any rate, so we will be doing that. When a palindrome, like the word, let me just think. Oh, all right. When you're stressed, STRESSED, Rick, you want to consume desserts, DESSERTS. That is the greatest reverse palindromes. They're sometimes called anadromes. And the point is that the humans, we just strive to name everything. Part of the miracle of language is its unceasing journey, effort to name itself. So something like, well, all right, let me just think for a minute. Marriage is like a deck of cards. You start off with 2 hearts and a diamond, and pretty soon you want to grab a club and use a spade. That would be homographs, because the spelling doesn't change. That's 4 homographs. That's very hard to do. Homographs are always harder. But on the other hand, what do you call a naked grizzly? A bear, a pony with a sore throat, a horse, and that kind of thing. There, the spelling changes, the pronunciation the same. They're homophones. They're sound-alikes, but they're not spelled alikes. And please come through the entrance of my talk here. I guarantee it will entrance you. Entrance and entrance. Moped and moped. Now they're spelled the same, but they sound different. And they're totally etymologically unrelated, completely accidental. Entrance and trance, moped and moped. And you see my point that we love. And Rick, if you're a fan of palindromes, just email me.
Well, that was actually Patrick's question about palindrome.
That was Patrick's. I'm so sorry. So Patrick, at any rate, well, you know how to email me there, and I will send you whatever you want about palindrome and anagrams. I love doing them. I think Richard H. Lederer at gmail.com. And why am I not finding this? But
I have it. I have all your stuff. I have all your contact.
Yeah, if you're at all able to put that up in the chat room, great. Just if people want to do that. Rick Hubbard, are you San Diego, Mensa? I saw you on yesterday. Yeah.
I just moved to La Quinta in March. I am now a San Diego Mensa.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
any questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
I wonder what your perspectives are on what I perceive to be the emergence of repartee, or maybe the reemergence of repartee as a literary device. There's an undercurrent of humor there in the notion of repartee, and yet it's also a way to communicate information. Do you have any perspectives on this?
Can't be helped, sorry. Part of it is, if you're thinking of it as part of novels and so on, I don't read them. I'm a constant devourer of nonfiction. So if you mean in novel dialogue, I just don't do enough to help you, but a very thoughtful question. And welcome to San Diego. And we've got a lot going on. Just feel free to ask about it. And how great that you've been tuning in here. Where did you move from, Rick?
Northern California. I lived in Chico, and I was a member of both the San Francisco and the Sacramento Mensa chapters.
Terrific Mensa groups. Any others before I move on?
I'm sorry, where did you say you went, Rick? Where you are?
I came from Northern California. I was a member of both the San Francisco Mensa group and the Sacramento Mensa group.
And where are you now, though?
La Quinta.
La Quinta,
Yeah,
okay.
by Palm Springs.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, we have a question.
Yeah, we were watching an old movie last night. I began to wonder, do you think the presence of movies 80 years old and so on with sound are slowing down the evolution of the language?
Or keeping it from not.
Or keeping it more stable?
Heraclitus said, you never step in the same river twice. You never step in the same language twice. Because we're adding more and more words at a faster clip. And by the way, in September of 2009, we went past 1 million. No other language comes close. And you say, Rich, how can you know that? Well, because of Google Global Search, which tells us at any time how many words we have in the language. And I think it was September of that year, I'm not sure of that, where we went over 1 million. And just as an example, a small one, but unmute, I would posit is a word that's come about in the last year and a half with Zoom, or maybe a little before, because Zoom was around before the apocalypse, the Armageddon, the pandemic that wrapped its tentacles around our planet. But, there is an example. So seeing those movies, I mean, I don't think so, because reading a Dickens novel or whatever, Thackeray, I don't think that slows down the progress of the language. And I know my wife watches a lot of the 1930s, the classic movies, but I don't think so. And what has happened is that the print dictionaries, the language is growing so rapidly that the print keeps getting smaller, and they're just not putting out these actual hardcover dictionaries because the language has gotten so large, and most people are online anyway. So I don't think that would slow it down. And I tend to welcome the progress, and I think many of you know that, for example, I am a fan of they, pronoun, the pronoun they as a third person singular, as well as a third person plural. And all the dictionary companies, most recently GNC, George and Charles Merriam, and you see that, by the way, over there, dictionary have accepted it. And to me, that's okay. I think it's a very useful word. So
I did have a question when you mentioned that about the 1 million words.
Yes.
How do they count any of these OMG or
that's it.
Those are considered words now.
Absolutely. OMG is even in the Oxford Dictionary. Yeah, there is, they have a panel of gatekeepers who are reading all the time. and who, and actually, the rest of this, because I can't see you all in gallery, I'm going to ask if you'll state your name, because I'd like to address you, with your name. And
that was Kevin. Uh-huh.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
That was Kevin. That was
Kevin, we live
just
south of Houston. Yeah.
Uh-huh. He didn't introduce himself when he asked about the old movies.
Yeah.
And I see that my name is the only one that appears on the screen. So I'm Lolo. Mm-hmm.
I got you. Terrific.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they have a bunch of gatekeepers who are reading, and if they see this word across a number of media and different print discourse, at some point they vote it in. So for example, gosh, I think back at about 2013, binge watch came in because compounds are still words. Selfie came in, and that kind of thing. And they're watching that. And here's an interesting thing that sort of relates to the book that I'm working on. When the rods came in to extend the selfie phone and take the picture, the original word for that was a narcissistic. S-T-I-C-K. Again, it's kind of a portmanteau, what we call an element, like, oh, it's brilliant. And I was going, come on, babe, stay, but there were not enough people that got that, the story of Narcissus and Echo. And so it just became a selfie stick. But that's sort of how it works. And they just, the dictionary people just decided not, it's just not catching on.
They couldn't spell it, that's why.
And it's an extra syllable, and selfie stick is
right.
alliterative.
That's
good. Very, Bob, that's very good. And those are reasons why words stick or don't stick. And that is alliteration and so on. And in American English, all right, I'm getting a little static on the back, but in American English, we often go for the shorter. So if anybody ever tells you when you say, gee, my work is finished, I'm sorry, let me just for a minute. My work is done. That's right. My work is done, D-O-N-E. And some officious annual retentive, you get my idea, says, no, your meat is done, your work is finished. You don't say done. That's a complete bullpuck. It doesn't exist in any reputable grammar handbook. And given the choice, most Americans use done rather than finished. Finished is fine, but a woman's work is never done. Or on our computer screens, are you done with this file, and so on. So if you don't mind, I am thrilled.
Hello, I put my question in chat. Are you going to answer those later?
Well, it's hard. You, Allison Brown?
I sure am.
Well, I did take a brief look. Okay, I'll take this last question for now, and I'll move on. Go ahead.
Oh man, I got one too.
Well, wait a minute, but we're going to be here. I mean, we're not going anywhere till at least 10:15. And Patrick, take a look because the questions are coming in. I don't want to intrude on the one that starts at 10:30. If I'm able to go to 10:30, fine. And if not, I completely understand, and I'm grateful for the time. So Allison, shoot, go ahead.
Is it really world literature that you're going to be discussing in your book, or Western civilization? Because I heard the name Bible fall, but not Quran or Bhagavad Gita.
That is true. And the answer is it is mostly English language, and it is mostly Western civilization. So you're right. It is not embracive in that way. And how thoughtful of you to think about that. All right. So one of the little pieces in the book, and I'll share this with you, I thought you would enjoy. And I imagine that some of you have tuned in here because you are a book lover. So I've written this little profile of a book lover. You're a dyed-in-the-wool book lover, and you know where we get dyed in the wool. which by the way, may be my next book, a book I'm working on called A Pleasury of Word Origins. But if you, with a fabric or a garment, if they're colored or printed after they're woven, fine, but if you do it before they're woven, that is the yarn or whatever, then that is essentially impossible to remove. So if you're a dyed-in-the-wool Mensa, a dyed-in-the-wool Republican, dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, dyed-in-the-wool Padres fan, dyed-in-the-wool philatelist or numismatist, then it means that you're in it probably forever. So you know you're a dyed-in-the-wool book lover if you were that kid who got excited when your teacher asked the class to read silently for a half hour. At home, if you got sent to your room as punishment, you grounded, you snickered to yourself because that meant an opportunity to be alone in peace with a book in your hands and a smile on your face. I hope you hear the music of that last sentence, an unfolding sentence, because when I write, I always read my stuff aloud at some point, and I listen to the music. I want to hear what my readers are looking at. When you were little, books were your best friends in the world, and they still are. You know the characters in novels better than you know real people. You yearn to live in the books you read, and you wish you could go on adventures with the people in them. You dream about attending Hogwarts, or you wish you could leap inside your wardrobe and travel to Narnia. When you're between books, you feel lost until you open the next one. You experience distress when you are somewhere without a book, a magazine, a newspaper, or at least a scrap of paper to read. The book is always, always, always better than the movie. The stack of books on your night table resembles the beginning of a Jenga game. When you are reading a good book, you sometimes forget to eat or sleep. On a must-finish night, you fall asleep with the book still in your hands. The bags under your eyes are not from a kinetic social life, but from staying up reading into the wee hours. When you work out, you choose only the machines that let you read while you're sweating. You can't figure out what people who go to the beach without a book do there. You spend the majority of your vacation time reading, and that includes your honeymoon. You've read so many books that people don't dare buy them for you anymore. Instead, they give you book-related gift cards, and one of your rapturous joys is when a friend actually reads a book you have recommended and loves it. And I hope so many of you have had that and loves it. And then the closed bookstores are your favorite places, no matter where you are or what you're there for. If you come upon a bookstore, you have to go inside and browse. 3 hours later, you emerge with a stack of books in your hands. You can't buy happiness, but you can buy books, and that's pretty much the same thing. Yep. You know that reading a good book is like life renewing itself. I really enjoyed writing that. So let me be very clear.
Bravo.
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 Thank you. And here's the point. Anything that you hear me do on the show is yours if you just email me. And I'm frustrated because I had that out. It's no big thing, but it's just I'm not a spatial person. And we all have our strengths and weaknesses. Richard H. Lederer at gmail.com. And if you want any of that, including that last one, or that game on, match the character to the actual extant book, any of that, or send me some more grammar stuff. I like Shakespeare. Can you send me Shakespeare stuff, including the authorship controversy, which is in the current Mensa Bulletin. I think it's the current one, and that's the April one that's out, I think. But at any rate, bingo, you get it, just by attachment probably, and so on. That person who, there was another person who had a question. If you'd like to shoot it at me, please.
Yeah, that was me. Hi, it's Mary. I was wondering if you've seen the musical Hamilton and what you thought of the use of language in that.
Fabulous. Fabulous. And I know, hey, what are all these black guys doing as founding fathers? Some people say that rap is a 4-letter word missing the first letter, and you know what that letter is. I feel rap is really fed into the streaming of our language, exceedingly enriching, very successful. And, you know, the only thing I'll add is if the humanities money had been badly cut, and then somebody comes and say, hey, I'm going to write about the founding fathers, they're going to be just about, and mothers, and they're just about all going to be dusky hued, and the whole thing is going to be in rap. Can you give me some money for that? I don't think it would be there, but there was help with that. And oh my God, what a success story. Lin-Manuel Miranda. I am all for that. I am very excited, very interestingly, I'll tell you, about Black English. I've done a lot of studies, and you may disagree, but I've written a number of pieces on Black English, Black names, and stuff like that. But these days, I'm not publishing them in the bulletin because I'm an old white guy, and who am I as an old white guy or just a white guy? And believe me, they're very laudatory because I really like the creativity that has brought us, you know, jazz and rap and hip hop and so on. But I don't publish those because I just don't think it's my place. I know a number of you will disagree, but I just, maybe one day, I mean, I haven't thrown them away, but I just keep them in my files. So that's the answer. Very excited about that. And I hope you know that Black English is entirely rule governed and contains subtleties that don't exist in standard English. So I can say a lot more, but that would be my answer. So if I could, and since I'm in control, I will. In the, I think it's the July issue, I have something, and again, I love working with Chip Tolby, called, titled, not entitled, 50 Rules for Writing Good, and then they always have the next line, dubious advice from Conan the Grammarian. And what these are purposely self-contradictory, quote unquote rules, and not end quote, by the way, unquote. And there are 50. I'm not going to saddle you with 50, but I'll do about half of them. And of course, if you want these, just email me at Richard H. Lederer. Please send me the grammar rules, and you might well have them by the end of the day, or certainly tomorrow. But the idea is, again, that they self-contradict. So here we go. Each pronoun should agree with their antecedent. Between you and I, pronoun case is important. A writer should be sure to avoid using sexist pronouns in his writing. By the way, that's one of the functions of they now, that it avoids that. Never use no double negatives. Never use a preposition to end the sentence with. When writing, which I just did there, I hope you heard, when writing, comma, participles must not be dangled. And by the way, one of the great causes of dangling participles is passive voice, which I use there, because then the subject, it's called the nobody voice. And I'm not saying you never use passives, but if there's a choice, don't. And with the subject on, then that introductory participial phrase or infinitive phrase or whatever can end up just dangling. The passive voice should be avoided. About sentence fragments. Don't verb nouns. Don't verb your nouns. Come on. Contractions won't, don't, and can't help your writing voice. Proofread to see if you any words out. Avoid annoying, affecting, and awkward alliteration always. Now that was actually assonance, because I do know my assonance from a hole in the ground. But at any rate, I couldn't do it as well just being consonant, doing consonants. And at this age, I am kind of inconsonant anyway. In my own personal opinion, at this point in time, I think that authors, when they are writing, should not get into the habit of making use of too many unnecessary words that they don't really need. And you saw there were about 4 redundancy. There's again, unda, wave, redundancy, that way. Don't start sentences with coordinating conjunctions. And as you know, for about 12 years now, we do have the so at the beginning, which I don't necessarily object to, incidentally. If I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. Exaggeration is 1 billion times worse than understatement, which is always the best. Never use a big word when you can utilize a diminutive word. Profanity sucks. And then last but not least, bend over backward to avoid old hat cliches like the plague. And again, you know, that's the laughter of Mensans, where we get your jokes. We like being with people who get us. We don't have to translate. And that's terrific. And so we're a very important group in my life, and I know in yours. Interesting studies, if I can send you one if you want. You'll probably live longer. I mean, and this is not just, you know, out of thin air, but or from whole cloth. You'll probably live longer than average. You'll probably be more educated than average. You will be less likely to become an addict than average. You will probably make more money than the average person, and etc. You probably be smart enough to go to a doctor when you need to, and so you might be healthier. And of course, there's that little mouse on the treadmill going pitter-patter inside of each skull, and we just love being with other people where we can hear that, and so on. So that's a little bit there on grammar.
Rich, may I ask a question, make a comment?
Always, Bob.
You said something in there that brought to mind one of the millennial changes, that is to say, it has come in with the millennium, more or less, like the use of goes for says.
Yes.
Or was for said. I'm noticing recently that the word so, you mentioned it coming at the beginning of a sentence. I find that particularly when people are talking, they will finish a statement that could perfectly well have ended in a period. This is mostly spoken. They could have made their statement and let it stand there. They'll end with so, ellipsis. And
just at the end. So they'll make the statement.
at the end. Kind of implying that there's more to be said, but I'm not going to say it now.
Wow.
Or there's a conclusion that you can obviously draw here, and it's completely unnecessary. But I think people say it so that it's a little bit like not taking your hand off your piece in chess, because once you take your hand off, you've made a statement and people can challenge it. But if you leave it at so, then it implies that you could defend what I just said if I wished to.
Nice. So Bob, I will try to do this front on. Leslie sent a note about, can anybody provide with the last part of my exaggeration is 1 billion times. Leslie, what I would respectfully suggest, Leslie Kim, I know her, holy crow. I'm not going to reveal your identity unless you want, but at any rate, just email me at richardhlederer@gmail.com And what I will do is I will send you all 50, and you'll certainly have that one. So Bob, you raise a number of questions, and I'll move through as quickly as I can. Yes, it used to be, and he goes, she goes, in place of says, asks, replies, reposts, or whatever. And it used to be go, and some of us wanted to say, well, you're not going anywhere, you're still here. And then we got a lot of like, and we're getting that now, and he's like, and she's like, gee, isn't this a great RG? And they're like, oh boy, it sure is. My concern there, although it certainly was in the language and it's being, and it moves along, is the two things are, number one, like is a similitude. And when we sprinkle with like, I think unconsciously we're saying, oh, not the thing itself, but something like it. So are you for reducing a greenhouse emissions, carbon emissions? Yeah, I'm like for doing that for the planet. Are you? Yeah, I'm like, but the like isn't quite the commitment to do it, in my view. And with the go and the like, when we start replacing verbs of locution, as in say, ask, retort, etc., with, I don't know, a preposition, I guess, with like, or some other verb of locomotion, I'm concerned when we push aside these, wow, these questions are coming in. This is unbelievable. And I'm trying to concentrate on both these words of locution. Now, in terms of the so, and I have not read a lot of them recently, the so at the beginning is an attempt to add credence to what you say. That's the hidden code. So, meaning so, well, it's a, you might say, wait a minute, that's a coordinating conjunction, like and but. How can you begin with so? But it is an effort to do that. And it's very much in our language, especially in our oral language, as Bob points out. The so at the end, and I hear your interpretation, and I'm just not sure what that would mean. I'd have to study that. But so, and then, okay, you get breast, so, yes.
It's how you attach pieces of cloth.
God, and I see this for Rick to everyone, but I didn't see the rest of that. So, and we're doing it more and more ourselves, let's face it. I'll tell you what, for fun, God, I've got all sorts of stuff. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close with this, and then I will stay for questions. And Patrick, let me know as we move toward 10:15 if you're still going. Can I go a little bit longer? Because obviously the questions are there and I'm thrilled. Or do we stop at 10:15? So we'll get to that. I had the pleasure of addressing or performing for four Alabama Mensa groups, most of them fairly small, but together a good turnout yesterday. And I did my language and laughter. And I would like to share with you all one of my favorite puns. Okay, good. Keith, Kent, look at all this coming in. I mean, just the resilience, the resourcefulness of human beings to do this, and not to mention the vaccinations. Boy, oh boy. Yeah, it says here, all right, I see from Mike Packer, do you see that? Okay, Patrick, that we can go till 10:30, it's up to you. But let me just quickly, I want to do two numbers for you that are kind of relevant now that I thought you'd enjoy. Many of you may know that I have a birthday coming up soon, because if you've attended RGs, we've had a little bit of a celebration for it. So, but I'm still 82. And actually, since July 4th of last year, I have lived slightly more than 1/3 the number of years that the United States has been a nation. So let me say that again. I will, 1/3 I have lived as an 82-year-old, about to be 83, of the number of years that the US has been a nation. So go from 1776 till now, 245 years, multiply 82 by 3 and you get 246 years. So even before I turn 83, I have lived 1/3 of the number of years of the US as a nation. Second, a lot of you know that I do work with presidents, and so I'll do this very quickly, which says something about our health and how long we're living and how vigorously we're living. In 1981, Ronald Reagan took office at the age of 69 years, 11 months, and 2 weeks, just shy of 70. That has been quite surpassed by Donald Trump, who entered office at 70 years and 4 months. He was born in 1946, August of 46. And of course, Joe Biden, who entered office at 78 and 2 months to the day. He was born on November 20th. Ronald Reagan left office, okay, at just shy of 78, 2 weeks short. So 77, blah, 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 just short of 78. Joe Biden entered office older than than Ronald Reagan when he left office. To me, an extraordinary figure. And here now we have a 50-year-old guy who could win the PGA, a 43-year-old who just won the Super Bowl. If you look at a lot of Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi, and so on, their ages, they're 80 or very, very close and going strong. Just amazing. So just for a little humor, which was promised, and I didn't begin to get to the stack of projects, but who cares? Can always send you what you want. I think you may know, I think it was Patrick kindly said, International Punster of the Year, the fastest punslinger in the world, who believes that a good pun is like a good steak, a rare, medium, well done, which again is a triple homma graph. And so here we go. What I am going to do is a little reprise, not reprise, of yesterday. All the other stuff was new. A classic pun, and this is a Terry fail on the model of William Archibald Spooner, a man who entered the earthly stage, I think, in 1832, went on to become a distinguished professor of history and literature and philosophy and divinity at the Oxford Yards, was there for 60 years. But because it is said he had a slight case of albinism, he had an aphasia that caused him to reverse initial consonants in consonant blends.
It's like what the capital steps do.
Yes, the capital steps do it. Rich Lederer does it. And that's one of our songs in our concert at the WG. And please, if you're at the World Gathering and I haven't met you before, please come up and say hello. I don't bite. I'm kind of the ultimate archetypal platonic extrovert. But it caused him to reverse syllables, consonants and consonant blends. And two famous examples are he lifted his tankard of ale to Queen Victoria. I didn't have to drink out of this, but this is my tennis jug, and announced 3 cheers to our queer old dean. And I hear the laughter because you, as human beings and Mensas, you are wired to make that reversal so that you make sense out of it. You see, that's the way you work. He was a devout Anglican, And one Sunday, he entered the church, and there was a woman sitting in his usual spot. And he approached her and said to her, "Mauden me, Padam, you are occupying my pie. May I sew you to another sheet?" And incidentally, speaking of Mensa and so on, if any of you are, from outside of San Diego, and I can be of help with you if you're Zooming monthly, as many are, and I can be of help with you with a presentation, please don't hesitate to ask. As I reach 83, I just find out, knock it shall be opened unto you, and you lose every point in life that you don't play. Okay, Allison, very good. I wish I had
Rich?
time to answer, and I get that. So at any rate,
Before you leave spoonerisms, Rich, I was interested in my tenure at Club Med to discover that they do spoonerisms in French.
So yes, but I'll bet you it's harder to.
Well,
French.
I don't know. I don't think I ever got good enough in French to do it myself.
Oh,
they had a few skits that they put on. The one particular phrase I remember. A French orator might begin with "chers amis," my dear friends, but in this skit they started with "serre chemise," which means literally tighten your shirts. It's a spoonerism. Chers amis, serre chemise. There you go.
Very good. Yes, and very briefly, I'll tell you why I think it would be harder. Number one, sheer vocabulary. The more words you have, the more a ghost town becomes a toast gown, and that kind of thing. It's just going to happen more. And second, we are less, I won't say burdened, but we have fewer inflections, gender endings, and so on. And with those, they make it harder to do the switch and get two words out of it. So good point. So here we go. What I'm going to do is I collect the classic puns. I put them in my books and I perform them. This is the Terry fail of Prinderella and the Since. So here we go. And I know at any rate, so here we go. And what I'm going to do is that when I get to the spoonerism, this is like Simon says, and that is when I get to the spoonerism, if I do this, that means I want you all, at least who are unmuted, to shout out the real words. But if I don't go like this, as in Simon says, then don't do that. And some of you early on will, and then you'll learn your lesson quickly. So the Terry fail of Prinderella and the Since.
Oh, Cinderella and the Prince.
Once upon a while, there lived a gritty little pearl.
There lived a pretty little girl.
Right. So you see, pretty little girl, gritty little pearl. It's amazing in English what you can do. And her name was Prinderella. She lived with her sticked wet mother.
Lived with her wicked
stepmother.
Ugly stepsister.
And they made her pine all the shots and shans, do all the, wean all the clindos, and do all the wordy dirk around the house. Isn't that a shirty game?
Isn't that a dirty shame?
Well, one day the King issued a proclamation.
One day the King issued a proclamation.
Terrific. Good. We don't need any retest here. The King issued a proclamation that all the eligible earls in the kingdom should come to a Drancy Fest ball.
Fancy dress ball.
Oh, Prinderella didn't have a Drancy Fest. All she had was an early drag.
All she had was dirty rags.
Oh, you're terrific. I have to take you all on the road to me. What a shirty dame.
Oh, what a dirty shame.
So off went the stick-it wet mothers and the three Sugliisters to the Drancy Fest ball, while Prinderella stayed home, and who should appear but Prinderella's Gary Fodmother. And the Gary Fodmother quickly turned a Cumpkin into a poached Forhyce in the Morses, and Prinderella's early drag into a Drancy Fest. Oh, I messed it up. And I messed that up. and Prinderella's early drag into a dragnificent mess.
A magnificent dress.
So off went Prinderella to the Drancy Fest Ball, and dang, she did have a good time, because at the Drancy Fest Ball, Prinderella met a pransome hince.
Handsome prince.
Prinderella met a handsome prince.
And she pranced with that Vince. Notice one of the consonants changed because I changed the word. She pranced with that Vince all night long. And at the Mocha Strid night,
The stroke of midnight.
Stroke of midnight.
Prinderella ran down the Stalis Peps. And now this is different. I'm going to give you the real words, and you give me the Spoonerism. She ran down the Stalis Peps and she slopped her dripper. I messed it up. Remember, I did a whole bunch yesterday. But at any rate, slopped her dripper. And at 83 or close to it, I do that myself from time to time. Slop my dripper. Well, the next day, the king issued. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. Another proclamation asking all the eligible earls in the kingdom to sly on the tripper.
On the slipper.
Well, the stick it wet mother slide on the tripper, it fidn't it. The three ugly Easter slide on the tripper, it fidn't it, but Prinderella flipped her soot.
Slipped her foot.
Flipped her foot into the tripper, and it fid it. She was pickle tink. So Prinderella and the Cince got married, and they have triple one happily ever laughter. And the star of the Mari is, if you want to go to a Drancy Festival and meet and marry a pransome hince, you better be sure to slop your dripper. And hey, I really like that. Guess what? Email me. I'll send you the text. You can practice it. So if I may, Patrick, if I could, I've got about 10 past 10. I could go on for hours because you energize me and we energize each other. So Patrick, if I may ask, what is your verdict? Can we go to 10:15? I know the next one doesn't start till 10:30. You tell me. I'm happy. I can close up now, or I can go till 10:20. You tell me, Patrick.
I think 10:15, we probably need a hard stop. That would allow the next group to come in and set up what they need to in order to start off at 10:30.
Okay, so then I will actually do a closing toast, folks. Again, Richard H. Lederer. Oh, wait a minute. I did find it. Just real quickly. This is called Low Tech, especially dedicated to Charles Patton. But there. So that's my email address. The person who wanted.
I put it into the chat earlier for you, Richard.
Of course, Charles. Oh my God. So there we go. And I will just close with this. I want to close with a toast to all of you, my fellow Mansons, both local and far flung. And again, thanks to Jennifer Morris and Patrick for doing this and enriching our lives. And we're social animals, just the way we're made, and we cooperate with each other. Again, I hope to see some of you at the World Gathering. I'm sure it's going to be terrific. And I actually think that this, move, the vaccinations and the gradual downward movement of the COVID-19, I'm sure you all know 19, why that number is. It stands for the average number of pounds that the average person will gain. And just remember, if God didn't want us to snack at night, why did he put light inside the refrigerator? Think about it. But I want to close with a toast to all of you. Why do we call it a toast? I'm glad I asked me that, because it gives me one more chance to be your English teacher. I want to be everybody's English teacher. We call it a toast because in the days of Elizabeth I, Queen Elizabeth I, and William Shakespeare, known as Willie Wigglestaff by many students, wiggle staff Shakespeare. Probably means he had an ancestor who was in the military and shook a spear. I mean, it's a good chance that's where we got the name. They would place, dunk, dip slices of spice toast, often cinnamon, into their tankards of ale to improve the flavor and remove the impurities. And you all coming out and tuning in today, beyond gratitude from my point of view, and so many, of course, I know at least half of you as I look at you and recognize your names, but I hope that this regional gathering, and I look forward to meeting you next year. I'm sure we'll all be corporeally together at our regional gathering. Usually comes Memorial Weekend. But I hope you feel that the RG and this program have sweetened your life a bit and perhaps even diminished an impurity or two. So my favorite toast is, here is champagne to our real friends. Here's real pain to our sham friends. That's called chiasmus. It's very close to spoonerizing, but you're taking the whole word. That's the thing. In English, just about everything has a name in language in general. To our thank you for being a real friend of Mensa in our 75th year, of San Diego Mensa, and in my case, being tuning in to be a real friend of our glorious, notorious, uproarious, victorious, outrageous, courageous, contagious, stupendous, tremendous, end over endless adventure that we call the Anglish language, from the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes, that sort of brought it over from that to the little island from basically northern Germany and little Scandinavia. Love you all so much. My toast to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The sound of two hands clapping. I
Thank
love
you.
it.
Thank you.
Hey, Rick Hubbard, thank you. And you're terrific. And we enjoy having you. I think Ed Shue is a good example there. You know, he's come from Indianapolis and just almost from the get-go, right off the mark, has just been very, very active with our group.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Bravo.
Thank you.
Yes.
Good fun in the morning. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much. From Oceanside, thank you.
And I'm looking for, thank you. I'm looking for your emails if you need material or questions, or if you're in a book club, and I do book clubs all over the country by Zoom. I'm there. Keeps me off the street. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Tusen.
Right on. I looked it up in the dictionary.